Cheers to something new.
Eagles Morning Rise. Eagles Morning Rise with
Thank you for leaving your dials locked on your radio experience. You can count on Eagles 102.3. You're on to Eagles Outlook. And this morning on the program, a federal high court in Abuja has ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and the Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Abubakar Malami, SAN, to appear before it on Thursday, May 12, to explain why the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, should be disqualified from running for president in 2023. Emefiele is one of the 25 persons who have indicated interest to run for president on the platform of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC. He, yesterday, Monday, through his counsel, Mike Ozekome, senior advocate of Nigeria, applied for an order of status quo and tabula be made against INEC and the AGF, so that he would not be made to resign from office until 30 days to the general election. So what this implies is that the central bank governor, Godwin Emefiele, wants to still be central bank governor, right, while he's vying for office to be president in 2023, okay, on the platform of the All Progressives Congress, which means, inversely, that he has a party membership. He belongs to a political party. Recall that on Saturday he had debunked speculations that debunked the news or stories that a group of people bought a form for him and that he was interested in running. He said he was seeking the face of God, as they say, to understand if he should run or not. But on Monday morning, this statement was made on Twitter on Saturday, right? On Monday morning, the man files a suit in court challenging his, the right, or what they call it now, the position of the law, which requires him to resign the Electoral Act 2022. He says he's not a political appointee. He is a civil servant. Help us understand that. Kelvin Emmanuel is my guest this morning. Kelvin, what are your thoughts? How did all of this meet you as a person, as a Nigerian?
To be honest with you, good morning to everyone listening, all our guests listening on the show. I tell you, I was shocked. I mean, a lot of things has gotten me riled up about Nigeria in the last several years, but this one takes the cake. Because a CBN governor he has a position that should always be above reproach, should always be above partisan politics. A CBN governor is a guardian of a country's financial system. He sets monetary policy, he coordinates with fiscal authorities to implement policies that helps to maintain price stability, to maintain stability of inflation, currency, to regulate financial service companies, commercial banks, deposit money banks, merchant banks, microfinance banks. That's the work of the CBN. The CBN is also a lender of the last resort. The CBN is tasked with the duty of ensuring that banks are healthy. So you remember that pre-2005, when Professor Chukwuma Soludo consolidated the banking industry, Nigeria had 89 banks. Remember the likes of Savannah Bank, Society Generale, Habib Bank, and the likes of them, that later merged with Platinum Bank and became Platinum Habib Bank, and then later became Keystone Bank.
Yeah.
When the merger was done, the number of banks, when the consolidation was done, number of banks went from 89 to 25. So the capitalization for banks were raised. In financial terms, they call it fractional reserve banking, where you adjust what they call the gearing ratio, the ratio of debt to equity. Equity is basically capital adequacy ratio that the banks have with the central bank to ensure that the ratio of the depositors' funds with the banks to the ratio of the risk insurance that the banks have with the CBN is healthy. So that in case there is anything, based on NDIC rules, there is compensation for customers. There's protection of funds. So you can imagine somebody who is a guardian of this thing I explained, taking the political side and favoring the political side. The central bank governor is the chairman and the head of the Monetary Policy Committee. Is the chairman of the board of directors of the bank, made up of his deputy governors, the accountant general of the federation, the minister of finance. Right? You can imagine him making decisions from a partisan lens. Section 9 of the CBN Act, as amended in 2007, says that the CBN governor is not to pursue any part of full-time vocation outside of his basic roles I mentioned as the chairman of the Monetary Policy Committee, a member of the Bankers Committee, the chairman of the board of directors of the bank, and then, number one, if the federal government has an interest in a corporation. Number two, if the government is a member, has a stake in an international bank or organization. Yeah, I can't remember the third one exactly, but they are specifically designed roles. Now, some analysts have said that, look, it has to be codified. Section 9 has to be codified, meaning that the Senate has to amend the CBN Act to define specifically what the governor cannot engage in. I don't agree with that argument of codification. I think Section 9 is very explicitly clear on what the role of the CBN governor is and on what his role is not.
So everything outside of, those specifications or those roles shouldn't be his area of concern.
It's illegal. It's completely illegal. And the CBN governor having his counsel argue Section 318 that talks about his fundamental human right as a citizen doesn't apply. Some people are saying, his constitutional right as a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has enshrined in Section 318 supersedes the Banking Act. No, it doesn't. His constitutional rights as a citizen of Nigeria of being able to vote and be voted for is restricted by his position as the governor of the central bank, which is first protected by the CBN Act, which is the act that establishes legally the Central Bank of Nigeria.
So if he wants to enjoy his fundamental human rights, he should relinquish the position
absolutely
of CBN governor.
Nobody is going to have an issue with him if he resigns today and says he wants to go full-time into politics. You can imagine S&P, Standard & Poor's, Moody's, Fitch, which are the three major rating organizations in the world. At the next review, they look at it and say, we got a news from Nigeria that says the central bank governor is now partisan, he's a card-carrying member of a political party, and while he's in office, he's violated the CBN Act and is running to be president of Nigeria.
Now, let's also look at this, the fact that the CBN governor can remove the chairman of, this is something it played out with the First Bank, where, the board of directors, the chairman of the board was changed. The CBN has the powers to influence businesses. The CBN has powers to, decide who heads the board of, especially financial institutions. So if the man is partisan and the chairman of the board is an opposing, politician or whatever, it means that whatever businesses that organization has, the CBN may not favor.
Let me give a little background to our audience on the First Bank issue. So First Bank has a regulatory forbearance of about 750 billion naira, which is about 10% of its balance sheet. And they had one particular issue with Obal Tudeko, who was the chairman, because First Bank has a structure where it has a holding company. And First Bank, as a bank, is limited by shares. It's not a PLC. So what is floated on the NGX, Nigerian Stock Exchange, is the holding company. So the holding company had a chairman separate from the bank. The bank had a chairman. The chairman was Ibuku Awosika. The holding company had a chairman, and the chairman was the second or third largest shareholder at the time of First Bank, Oba Otudeko, who is also the chairman of Honeywell. And we all know the story of how Honeywell took a loan and the security that was given for that loan and not being appropriate, and the issues they had with the loan going into non-performance, and the bank went back and forth, and the CBN came in to carry out its role as a regulator of the bank, because First Bank is a very systematically strategic bank for Nigeria. First Bank has the business of a lot of government agencies and parastatals. So First Bank going into distress is not negotiable. So the central bank had to act, and they acted. So you can imagine the role of the governor being tainted by partisan politics. You can imagine it.
Well, he says he's not a political appointee. He's a civil servant. How do we juxtapose that with the fact that he was appointed by the Jonathan administration first, and then he continued with the Buhari administration, and Buhari reappointed him as CBN governor?
He was appointed by the president. So him saying that he was appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate. Because, when the rules where when you're appointed, you have to go to the Senate for confirmation. Him saying that he's not a political appointee is an aberration. On the other hand, if you look at the public service rules, he's also violated the public service rules. He's violated the public service rules that governs him. So the issue here is an issue of constitutional illegality. Him going to have his lawyer apply for an affidavit of urgency requesting for a short date to challenge the constitutionality of the act that establishes the central bank, of which he is the head, petitioning INEC and the Attorney General of the Federation, and asking for an order antebellum that will restrict INEC and the AGF from compelling him to resign based on sections 84(2) and 12 and sections 100 of the Electoral Act as signed in 2022 is illegal. So not only has he violated sections 9 of the CBN Act, he's also violated sections 84 subsections 2 and 12 and sections 100 of the Electoral Act that the president signed in 2022.
The Attorney General isn't also left out. The Attorney General is one of those who people are saying, look, you two have to go. And it's not, he himself is not resigning. There are other ministers in the cabinets who are vying for position, who are not also resigning. So does this mean that we're just making a complete mess of the Nigerian law?
What is interesting for me is in 2023, after these elections, the governorship elections, senatorial elections, presidential elections, the election tribunals are going to be really, really interesting and drama filled, because the candidates are just waiting in front. Like the candidates who, of course, are going to lose the elections are waiting in front. They're waiting in front because after the elections, you're going to see them hire SANs, and file cases in court.
But in a situation where it's become the order of the day to disobey court orders and this high level of impunity in the country, do you think that would hold water?
The governor, the candidate of the APC who lost the governorship election in Bayelsa State after he had won overwhelmingly at the polls, lost the case at the Supreme Court because his deputy had filed wrong documents. That is a technicality based on provisions of the Constitution. that he lost the elections on. So winning an election is one thing. Violating the law of the land is a separate matter entirely. Because after you win the election and you get your return certificate from INEC, you have to face the law. If you violate the Electoral Act now by refusing to resign, based on the provisions of Section 84, subsections 2 and 12, you're going to meet it in front. Because your opponent is going to challenge you in court.
When
and you're going to have to answer to the law.
People do not have confidence in the judiciary. How does that play out? How would that, work?
Well, I would say there's been events that has made people to, doubt. But at the end of the day, when you really look at it, you realize that candidates deliberately flouting the Electoral Act and the laws of the land, the Constitution, in the hopes that they can get away with it in the judiciary, is a huge risk that I don't think they should take.
Right, the conversation continues. We're talking this morning. Emefiele goes to court. We're also looking at other issues surrounding the 2023 election. Several candidates, aspirants indicating interest to run for the highest office in the land. The rumors on the, former President Goodluck Jonathan joining the APC. We're talking about that shortly. Keep it.
3. Abuja.
A stitch in time saves 9. Scratch that. How about saving the 9 for a stitch in time after all? Fashion keeps evolving. Trendy Stitches brings you the ladies and gentlemen trends. The runway, corporate space, couture, hair, makeup, and definitely do's and don'ts. If it's fashion, we're talking about it. Trendy Stitches every Wednesday, 11 a.m. with Olije on 102.3 Extra. Trendy Stitches. Make your everyday a runway.
It's travel time. 3 lucky people stand a chance to win a trip to Kenya in the Techno Nigerian Idol Winner Trip promo. Buy the Techno Camon 18 or Phantom X smartphones and travel on an all-expense-paid trip with the winner of the Nigerian Idol Season 7. Also, get discounts of up to 10,000 naira on select Techno smartphones and gifts upon purchase. Promo runs till 5th of June. Visit at Techno Mobile NG on social media for more info. T's and C's apply. Techno, stop at nothing.
Eagles Morning Rise. Eagles Morning Rise with Prince.
The time is 9:30 and you are onto your radio experience you can count on. This morning, we're talking on Eagles Outlook. Emefiele goes to court. And all the things are surrounding the 2023 elections, especially the presidential race in 2023. My guest this morning is Kevin Emmanuel, CEO Diary Hills and public affairs commentator. I love to call him public intellectual. He's joining us in the conversation this morning. You can be a part of it now. Join us and share thoughts with us. Call 090-7353-0044 and 090-8766-8888. Hello, good morning.
Hello, yes, sir. Good morning, Oga Prince.
Good morning.
And good morning to your guest. My name is Stay Kimbi. I'm calling all the way from South Nigeria.
Taking me going.
Oga Prince, you see, just like that, it's unprecedented in the history of democracy in Nigeria since 1999. When you are going to have our parents accountable, who are willing to play, to play belt, with their money, 100 million, 50 million. Even though this position is going for just only one person, others are willing to gamble with their money, huge amount of money. I cannot explain why ASU is not asking for too much. It means that there is money. Okay, please, you see, and I want to ask you, sir, why people who are saying that they bought from for them 100 million? Is it true? Is it true that other people can sacrifice their 100 million to buy from for someone that is not even ready to collect it 100 million naira? And you see, okay, please, the last time I checked, from Senate, presidential, governor, and you see, I said, please, you want to make as much as 19.8 billion naira. No wonder Mr. Adamu resigned from Senate. As the person that carry elephant to go and set a trap, only God knows the kind of animal that I want to catch. Because I was shocked that this man resigned from Senate. I can now see why he resigned. 19.8 billion, that money can, part of that money, I'm appealing to them, should be dedicated to ASU, should be given to ASU. That will do us, a lot of good, because this is a lot of money. And I want to say that, Jonathan, he has sympathy for APC, there's no doubt. Because for quite some time, in their never been seen around PDP meetings, but he has been showing no sympathy for APC. But I want to say that let him come out clear. Let him stop playing hide and seek game. We want to know.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for calling Take and Bay. Keep your calls coming 09073530044. Hello, good morning.
Hello, compliment. You are not your prince. It's Joey.
Joey, good morning. Good to have you join us.
Yes. The truth is, you don't have to go to school. You don't have to read law. Some things are just logical. How can a CBN governor, when I heard that he was even in court, it was laughable.
He's a lawyer.
Like, do you understand? Like me and you, naturally, the whole thing is sometimes I tell people, let's look at things from a logical point of view. Let's just be like, how can you say this? You are head of CBN. You know what the Nigerian politician cannot do does not exist. Some things can only happen in Nigeria. They can't happen anywhere else in the world. It's the truth. It's funny.
That's a very good byline, by the way. It's a very good byline.
It's funny.
What Nigerian politicians cannot do does not exist.
It only happens in Nigeria. That's the truth. You will never see this kind of thing anywhere else in any country.
Joey, thank you so much for calling in. Appreciate your thoughts on the program. Well, we have a new one. But then let's talk about the role of the president in all of this. The president, has the power to demand resignation from the CBN governor if he doesn't want to sack him. Okay, the president has the power to sack him and say, okay, you look, this is too much. This is an embarrassment to my administration. Okay, I'm going to let you go. But if the president hasn't done anything about this, seeing as how there were branded cars, Emefiele for president 2023, before that, right after that, we saw, people come out to say they bought the phone for him, and then he's going to court now. He's literally suing the Attorney General of the Federation. Let's bring in a caller first.
Okay.
Hello. Okay, what's happening now? Just keep trying to get across. The numbers again are 09073530044 and 090876688. And I was speaking with Dr. Sam Amadi yesterday, and he said, look, this makes the president look like a weak person. As president, people said Jonathan was a weak president. Now this makes the president, Muhammadu Buhari, also look weak if he's unable to sack the central bank governor at this point. Hello, good morning.
Hello, my friends, good morning.
Good morning, Paul.
Morning to our guests this morning.
Good morning.
I think
Paul?
what is happening in this country is like how I say boju, they call it boju. You rob it out to pay for. I don't know what is happening within the APC. There is something that is in that APC within their 100 million that we are yet to unravel, that nobody is willing to explain. There's no secret about that 100 million form that we are yet to unravel. Until we unravel, before we know, with that kind of amount, people are still buying those forms and are coming out to say, I want to contest. They will buy the form and carry it down and show Nigerians that we have bought the 100 million form. And the most laughable thing is that Fulani, the ATLA, they say they bought the form for good luck to contest. I don't know whether that is true.
It's not me ATLA. It's not me ATLA. It's a Fulani group. Let's not bring in. I mean, ATLA is a different organization. Let's set that straight.
Did they actually buy the phone for him?
Well, they said they bought the phone for him, and former President Goodluck Jonathan has said he doesn't know them. He didn't buy the phone.
Good. Whether he confirmed it or not, there is this the more you see, the less you understand in this politics in Nigeria. Anything can happen. But if Fulani, who so many of them are tagged as the bandits or terrorists, we turn back. They are complaining about education and complaining about a lot of things. Why didn't they use that money to talk to their people or to bring back their put their people in school?
Sorry, sir.
That's why
Let's
they
get.
are
Let's.
taking for
Sorry, sir.
assumingly.
Sorry, sir. Let's
No,
get. Let's,
no.
sorry, sir.
Hold on,
Sorry, sir.
hold on. Paul, go ahead. Just hold on. Let's allow Paul wrap up. Paul, go ahead. Wrap up your thoughts, please.
Okay, now I want to wrap up by saying this. To your guest in the studio, I want him to elaborate a little more. Does it mean that as soon as you take up an appointment, you automatically forfeit your human rights? And if you automatically forfeit your human rights, it means the appointment, that ministry or that organization that is the appointment, the law has now become your human right. I want to get a little clarification on that. And then I need to comment on the lawyers. I don't know why can't we make so.
Paul, seems like we lost connection with Paul there.
First of all, I would like to clarify that Fulanis are not bandits and terrorists. Okay, Fulanis are Nigerians, they're peaceful. The elements who decide to go rogue and do bad things do not make like
the entirety of a race or a tribe.
It's important for us to clarify that. Just like you have bad people
in every
amongst the Ijaws and the Yorubas and the Igbos, you have it everywhere in Nigeria. You have it everywhere in the world. It's important for us to get that clarification, please. On his question of the issue of the lawyer who took up the brief, Barrister Mike Eziokeme, SAN, is doing his job. He was given a brief, he's doing a job that he was paid for, that he's entitled to if a client consults him. Okay, so he's not violated any laws. It becomes a moral issue of if he wants to take on that kind of brief, considering the reputation he has within the legal community in Nigeria and the amount of respect they accord to him as an SAN and the cases he has taken in the past. I think he asked a question about
on the human rights, or do you forfeit your human rights?
So we talked about this earlier, Section 318. It doesn't forfeit his human right to life, his basic human rights as a citizen of Nigeria. But he's bound by the act that establishes the CBN, which specifies very clearly in Sections 9 the specific roles that he can occupy. It says specifically that he cannot pursue either full or part-time any vocation outside of the roles that we enumerated earlier on in the show. It's very specific. Some people are saying that, there should be codification of Sections 9 to say specifically that the CBN governor is not allowed to either become a card-carrying member of a party, to be partisan, or to run for political office. I don't think it's necessary. Maybe, it doesn't hurt anything if the Senate decides to call for an amendment of the CBN Act and include that and codify Sections 9. Well, I think it's very clear. Yeah? The Act is very clear. These are the roles you can occupy. Outside of these roles, you're not allowed to. If you want to, you have to resign. Sections 11, subsections 2, says that the CBN governor can resign pending that he gives the president a 90-day notice, and that the president has the powers to fire the CBN governor on violation of the act that establishes the CBN or on proof of impropriety, which we have seen very clearly. The governor has violated the act and there is impropriety, right? So the president can actually fire the CBN and sending a request to the Senate and getting a vote, a two-third majority vote from the Senate to back up his decision. But then again, you have to ask yourself, considering the fact that in the last 72 hours, the office of the Senate president hasn't said anything. You have to ask yourself if the Senate is going to go along with ratifying the sack of the governor of the central bank. They've not made any statement, which is very shocking. There was supposed to be an emergency session yesterday at the Federal House of Representatives. That didn't happen. What's going on?
It seems like the Senate president or the Senate wants to be president.
What's going on? It's the duty of the National Assembly to call the governor of the central bank to order. It's clear as day and night in the laws.
We'll talk about, some of the people in cabinet who are running to be president when the ministries that they manage are suffering. Let's bring in a scholar. Hello, good morning.
You see, my prince, this is Paul. I just want to pass one short comment here.
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you for that explanation to you from the guest. But for asking this question, whether the president can fire or call him and sack all these people, if the chief justice that holds the law is violating it, then there was this question that somebody asked from the same cabinet, who is the presidency? Who is the president? That's my own comment.
Thank you very much, Paul. Okay. Speaking of, those who are, for instance, we have fuel scarcity, fuel queues returning to, the FCT and other places. ASU is on strike. The polytechnic unions would also join in the strike today. Hope, we've seen that insecurity is on the rise. Transportation is a problem. The Minister of Transportation is also, vying. And these are people who naturally, if people are going to, into elections, they come with their antecedents and what they've been able to achieve, what they've been able to accomplish with other offices that they hold or that they've held. With all of this is going on, what do you say about the fact that Nigerians have focused on the two big parties when there are other viable candidates or aspirants from other political parties?
I'll be very honest with you and I'm very blunt. The smaller political parties always have the penchant for coming to elections 12 months before elections. It's laughable. It's laughable because it takes at least 8 to 10 years for you to prepare for a presidential election. The smaller political parties also are focused on the grand prize, which is the presidential election. I don't think they should. I think they should be focused on the position of local government chairman, governorship seats, House of Rep, Senate. I think that should be their focus first. And there should be like a critical path plan, a project charter that says this is how the strategy on how we intend to infiltrate different areas of government over a period of 20 years. There should also be like a coalition, because running a political party, a federal party, requires that you have people on ground across 774 local governments of the federation. That's thousands of wards. Each local government has different wards. That's thousands of wards. You need foot soldiers. You need to pay them. You need to oil them. You need to fund their logistics. It costs billions to run a political party. And the problem I've had with the system of government in Nigeria, which is the reason I believe the elections are flawed, is that according to sections 93.4 and sections 91.9 that of the Electoral Act 2022 that specifies the limits on how much candidates can spend, individuals, corporate organizations, during an election. Yeah. The campaign finance laws, protects what in the corporate sector they call antitrust. Big companies using their money and power and influence to crush small companies by unfair competition. It's the same analogy in politics. Until INEC comes up to its responsibility based on the laws that has been passed in the Electoral Act of 2022 and says that, you know what, at the conventions of the two major political parties in May and June of 2022, cash is banned from being shared, number one. Number two, the political parties has to submit their annual statements. They have to submit their register of donors. They have to declare their assets and liabilities to INEC 3 and 6 months consecutively after elections, and March for each financial year. We're not going to make progress because you have a lot of shadow money in politics that you cannot explain where they came from, right? Until we move the system of funding political campaigns in Nigeria from money bags, career politicians, and mysterious sources who do horse trading and say, if I'm going to give you 10 billion to run an election, this is what I'm going to get in return. Case in point, the situation that involved Governor Ngige in Anambra many years ago with Godfather. The political space in Nigeria is Godfatherism. That's the politics. Elections are expensive. I dare to say that in the 2023 general elections, for the presidential elections, between 150 to 250 billion naira will be spent. Conservatively. Where's the money coming from? Are we asking the questions? Where is the money coming from? Is INEC doing its job based on the Electoral Act of 2022 that places strict enforcement and spells out strict penalties for violation of the Electoral Act? Is it placing a cap based on the law on how much each individual organization can donate and give out a register to INEC? It's in the law of who gave what. There has to be a register.
That's why they're buying forms for.
There has to be a register.
They're buying forms for 100 million. So, I mean, they're buying forms. Even it doesn't matter what they contribute to the party.
I dare say that the monies that the ruling party has generated so far from nomination and expression of interest forms is not going to front 10% of what they will spend at the general elections in 2023.
You think so?
I understand people are outraged, but we have to sit down and tell ourselves the truth. What is the reality of the situation? The reality of the situation is that you need money. And until INEC rises up to its responsibility of moving the financing of elections from money bags and dark unknown sources to credible sources, the people have to contribute to the elections in their small ways. If there is a limit of 1 billion naira for presidential election as stated in the Electoral Act of 2022, the INEC has to enforce it. That way, you can have a system that says the candidates have to sell their political parties and their manifesto based on their pedigree, based on their persuasion skills, rather than money politics, influencing the votes of people by giving them money and giving them food, which is what they call stomach infrastructure.
Hold that. Let's bring it. Let's look at Chooks' message. Chooks says, "Hello, Yenacho, the guest. The political scene presently is an indication in case anyone was deluded before that the political class of this country may be the problem rather than the solution of our ills. The same party that signed the not too young to run law is selling 100 million naira forms. What hypocrisy!" And he goes on to say, and to make matters worse, respected individuals, including clergy, who should tell truth to power, are to be found in this mix, whether young people or with the young people. Chooks sent in that one. Thank you so much, Chooks. Appreciate your message. Some of your thoughts as we close, please.
I think it's late for us to expect any upset from parties outside of the two major political parties, but I'm putting it out to Nigerians that for 2027 and 2031, the time for planning and building of structures starts today. It doesn't start in 2026 or 2030. It starts today. If you're going to win an election, you don't start planning 12 months to the election. You start planning 7 years ahead of time. And until the small parties leave their high horse and come together as one coalition, they won't make a dent. And the ruling and major opposition party know. All of the agitation and complaint is just talk.
Love that call to INEC and the other parties. I don't like to call them smaller parties, but the other parties in the country need to wake up. We have about 16 other parties in the country, and they all need to rise up to the occasion and see how they too can make an impact in the Nigerian polity. Kelvin Emmanuel, Diary Hills CEO and public intellectual, thank you so much for talking with us.
Thanks for having me as always.
And we'll keep the conversation going on our socials at Eagles FM Abuja. Don't forget you can watch live. If you missed any part of the show, go back onto YouTube and Facebook and watch us live at Eagles FM Abuja. Olije will be taking over in sport on 102.3 Extra in a bit. Oh God, Olije is going to take over on 102.3 Extra in a bit, and before then, business news. We'll be talking more. Please head on to.
Did I start doing sports?
I don't know. There's one.
You guys are about to hear Liverpool versus. I don't know.
Okay, Olije. By the way, what team do you support? Are you a Chelsea fan? Just say you're a Chelsea fan.
Why do you say Chelsea?
Just say you're a Chelsea fan. Just say, I'm a Chelsea fan.
I'm a Chelsea fan.
Stay with us on your radio experience. You can count on. My name is Ihiana Chopra. Bye for now.